Our today lecture is the female reproductive system. Is correct? So this katna now I am going to start. Today we are going to read about the female reproductive system, right? And then gametogenesis means in males spermatogenesis and in female oogenesis. Okay, female reproductive system. This is our today's lecture. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries along with, look here, pair of ovaries. These ovaries, they are primary organs. They are primary reproductive organs. Why they are primary reproductive? Already I tell you, because they produce gametes, right? Along with a pair of oviducts. Paired organs are oviducts, uterus, single uterus, cervix, single, vagina, single, and the external genitalia, which is located in the pelvic region, right? In a female reproductive system, what is there? One primary organ, that is ovaries, right? And other secondary. Secondary means what? Oviducts, a pair of oviducts, single uterus, single cervix, single vagina, and the external genitalia, which is present in pelvic region, right? These parts of system along with a pair of mammary gland. Look here, this mammary gland is not a reproductive part of female, but it is a accessory part, we can say right? Mammary glands are integrated structurally and functionally to support the process of ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, birth, and child care. It is also integrated with reproductive organs. That's why it is also called as secondary sex character. It is not a reproductive organ, but it is a secondary sex character in females, right? Which is integrated with reproductive system. So we also read this mammary gland with the reproductive system of female. Okay. Ovaries are the primary female sex organ. Why they are called primary female sex organ? Because they produce gametes, female gametes, right? That produce the female gametes, and this female gamete is called ovum in case of women, and several steroidal hormones. They also secrete several steroidal hormones, as for example, estrogen, progesterone. They are estrogen. They are released from this ovary, right? That is combinedly called as ovarian hormones. The ovaries are located on the lateral, look here, on each side of the lower abdomen, laterally, right? It is located dorsolateral. Lower abdomen. Each ovary is about, what is the length is given? 2 to 4 centimeter in length. Very small ovaries are there. They are 2 to 4 centimeter. Means we can say it is near about to this one, right? And each connected to the pelvic wall. It is connected with the pelvic wall and uterus by ligaments. Here is given ligaments, right? These ligaments, because they are present in peritoneal cavity, so they are also called as peritoneal ligament, right? They are broad peritoneal ligaments, right? Each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium. It is covered by a thin epithelium which encloses the ovarian stroma. Look here, the ovary, when we consider the ovary is covered by a thin epithelium, and this epithelium is cuboidal epithelium, simple cuboidal epithelium. We can say it is also a simple cuboidal germinal epithelium, right? And it is the outermost layer, and just beneath this one, the inner layer, it is made up of white fibrous connective tissue, or we can say it is tunica albuginea, right? White fibrous connective tissue. And inside the white fibrous connective tissue, there is stroma, right? And this stroma is further divided into two parts. Outer one is called cortex, and inner part it is called medulla, which is given here also. Each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium. Which epithelium? It is white fibrous connective tissue. We can say here WFCT, and white fibrous tissue is what? collagen fibers, right? White fibrous connective tissue, right? That is collagen fiber. And this tissue, this covering is called tunica albuginea. This is the covering which is made up of white fibrous connective tissue, collagen, tunica albuginea. Just above the tunica albuginea, we have a which one? Simple cuboidal epithelium, right? And between these, right, this is the outermost, this one is the outermost, right? And then after tunica albuginea, and inside the tunica albuginea, what is there? It is stroma. This is stroma. And stroma is further divided into outer cortex and inner stroma is called medulla, right? This is the outermost simple cuboidal, then white fibrous connective tissue, then stroma. Stroma is further divided into outer peripheral cortex and central stroma. That is given here. Each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium. I already write there, simple cuboidal epithelium, which enclose the ovarian stroma, and it is further followed by which one? White fibrous connective tissue, which is made of collagen fiber, and this layer is called tunica albuginea. It is this one is tunica albuginea, and now after this stroma is present, here it is given, which enclose the ovarian stroma, and this stroma is further divided into two zones: peripheral is outer, it is cortex, and inner, that is called medulla. These are the covering of ovaries. Do you understand this one, right? Now here a structure is given. This is the LS, longitudinal section of a female structure, right? And you can see here, this is the piriform shaped uterus. You can see here what is the location of these different part of the bodies. Uterus, this one is uterus, right? That is urinary bladder. Then after pubic symphysis, and you know pubic symphysis means where it is present? In our pelvic girdle, right? Pubic symphysis is present just and that is, we can say, just this one is ventral to the urinary bladder, posterior ventral. Urethra, this is the urethra, opening of urethra into the, where it opens, it is opening this urethra, right? The urethra, it is open at the anterior portion of anterior. This is anterior, this is the posterior portion. So anteriorly, this one is vaginal orifice, right? So this is anterior portion, urethra, anterior, right? And this is the vaginal orifice. It is toward the posterior. It is posterior, right? Here also, to one pair of gland, that is Bartholin glands, and the Bartholin glands opens laterally, right, in the vagina, right? Okay, that is even clitoris, that is the labium minora, labium majora, outer one, another one, right? This side it is anus, vagina, rectum, cervix, right? This is the part of, last part, right, of uterus, which is called cervix. Okay. Now here, in this figure, you understand the location of different part of the reproductive system of a female. The oviducts, oviduct means fallopian tubes. We can say also fallopian tubes, uterus and vagina constitutes the female accessory ducts. They are female accessory ducts, and these female accessory ducts, they develop in intrauterine life. They develop through Mullerian ducts, right? Mullerian duct. Already I tell you in the previous lecture that the accessory ducts, accessory reproductive ducts in male, they develop from Wolffian duct, right? And in case of female, it is developed from Mullerian ducts, right? Each fallopian tube is about 10 to 12 centimeter long. It is the length of how much? 10 to 12 centimeter long and extend from the periphery of each ovary to the uterus. Periphery means just peripheral to the ovary. They extend from the periphery of each ovary to the uterus. You can understand what is the distance between uterus. It is near about to 10 to 12 centimeter. It is the length of our fallopian tube, right? It is less than 10 to 12 because it is also quite. Okay, the part closer to the ovary is the funnel shaped. The part which is closer to ovary, it is a funnel shape, right? Funnel shape means to catch the ovum. It is a funnel shape and it is called infundibulum, right? The edge of the infundibulum possesses finger-like projection. This structure is present, and this structure is called infundibulum. These finger-like projections, they are called as fimbri, right? Already one fimbri you read where it is in prokaryotic cells, they are bristle-like structures, but here they are finger-like projections, right? They are called fimbri, which are located in infundibulums, right? And which help the collection of the ovum after ovulation. When egg, because look here, this is the ovary. When egg is released, right? So this egg comes into the infundibulum. Because this egg is released in peritoneum cavity, this egg is released in peritoneum cavity. So this egg is called the egg released, right? So this egg is called coelomic egg. Coelomic egg, because it is released directly into the coelom cavity, or we can say it is inside the peritoneum cavity. So it is called a coelomic egg. Look here, this one is fimbri, right? And I draw here only to explain this one. These finger-like projections means fimbri, and this is the infundibulum, central region of infundibulum, and this is central region of infundibulum. Here a pore is present. It is called ostium, right? Because this pore is present inside the peritoneum cavity. So this pore is also called as peritoneal ostium. Ostium. Right? When egg comes, this is the ovary. When egg comes from ovary, right? This egg comes into the peritoneum cavity, or we can say coelomic cavity. That's why this egg is called coelomic egg. I write here coelomic egg. Now this egg is collected by this with the help of fimbri. It comes to the peritoneal ostium, and from peritoneal ostium it comes into the dilated part, that is ampulla. This egg come into the ampulla, right? So that means what? It come into the infundibulum. From fundibulum it comes into the ampulla. From into ampulla it goes to the isthmus. From isthmus it goes into the uterus with the help of cilia, right, which are present in the oviducts. Okay, the infundibulum leads to a wider part, or we can say here dilated part, right? And this one is called our ampulla. This infundibulum, it leads, right, or we can say this ostium, peritoneal ostium, it opens into a wider part, or we can say dilated part, which is called as ampulla. Ampulla, right? This ampulla, it is the region where fertilization occurs, or we can say fusion, or fusion of male and female gamete occurs in the ampulla, right? The last part of the oviduct is isthmus. It is a narrow lumen, also given here, has a narrow lumen, and it joins the uterus, right? That means there our oviduct, that is fallopian tube, we can say it starts from the infundibulum, right? Infundibulum which possesses fimbri, and then it continue up to ampulla. When ampulla become narrow and it comes into the uterus, it is called as isthmus, right? And when this narrower part is joins with uterus, then it is called interstitial tube or intramural tube, right? Okay, here intramural tube is not given. That is also isthmus. Isthmus in narrow lumen, and it joins the uterus, right? The uterus. Now you understand. I think you understand fallopian tube. Fallopian tube is divided into three parts. First is infundibulum, where the egg is collected. Second, which is where the egg is collected, right? And egg enters into the fallopian tube or through the coelomic ostium or peritoneum ostium, right? Then this infundibulum opens into a wider part that is called ampulla. Wider part becomes narrow and joins with uterus. Where it is narrow and it joins with uterus, this part, narrower part, it is called isthmus, right? Fertilization or syngamy, or if we can say fusion occurs in the ampullary region, right? Now uterus is a single and it is also called as womb. Normally it is called as womb, right? The shape of the uterus is like a inverted P. Inverted pear is also called as pyriform. Pyriform shape. Inverted pear. So inverted pyriform. You can say inverted pyriform. Pyri means pear shape, right? It is inverted pear shape, right? It is supported by ligaments. It is also supported by ligaments, and you know ligaments, they are made up of yellow elastin fibers attached to the pelvic wall. Which ligaments? These ligaments, they are attached to the pelvic walls. Look here, ovary, fallopian tube, that is oviduct, and this uterus, they are attached with ligaments, and ligaments with ligaments, and this is the broader ligaments. It also provide the platform for blood vessels or lymphatic or lymphatic vessels, right? The ureter opens into vagina through a narrow cervix. The broader part of the uterus, it is called as fundic region, right? Body or fundic region. And the narrower part toward the vagina, it is called cervix, right? The cavity of the cervix is called cervical canal. The narrower cavity which is present in the cervix, it is called cervical canal, right? Here we can say, because okay, when I show you the figure, then I explain you how what are the parts of the cervix, okay? Which along with vagina forms the birth canal. That means we can say cervical canal here, cervical canal and plus vagina, they forms birth canal, right? Which forms the birth canal. The wall of the uterus has 3 layers. Now here anatomy, we can say histology of uterus means it has 3 layers of tissues, right? The external thin membrane is perimetrium. The outermost, right? Peri means what? Peripheral. Thin membrane is called perimetrium. Middle, it is a thick layer and it is made up of smooth muscles. Smooth means what? Involuntary muscles which contains spindle or fusiform cells, right? Called myometerium. Myo means what? Muscles, right? And the inner glandular layer, this layer is also made up of a single cuboidal epithelium, glandular epithelium called endometerium. So 3 layers is there: perimeterium, myometerium and endometerium. Outermost one is thin membrane, this is the epithelium, this is perimeterium. Middle is muscular, this is myometerium. Which muscles are present? Smooth or involuntary muscles are present. These are at the time of birth, they become the strongest muscles of the whole body, right? They are also at that time they are also the largest smooth muscles and strongest smooth muscles, right? The last one is inner glandule, which is made up of which one? Glandular epithelium, right? They are also called as endometerium, right? that lies the uterine cavity. Endometrium toward the uterine cavity. The endometrium undergoes cyclical changes, only endometrium, during menstrual cycle, while the myometrium, that is muscular layer, exhibits strong contraction during the delivery of the baby, or we can say during the parturition, right? Then after, the external genitalia is given here. We will read this one. Then after, I open the structure. The female external genitalia includes mons pubis. What is given? Include mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen, clitoris. These are the part of external genitalia. Here, mons pubis is a cushion fatty tissue. Is a cushion fatty tissue covered by skin and pubic hair. Second given, the labia majora are fleshy folds of the tissues which extend down from the mons pubis, just down the mons pubis, and surrounded the vaginal opening. It is present. Inside this labia minora are paired fold of tissues under the labia majora, right? The opening of the vagina is often covered partially by a membrane, and this membrane is called hymen. This is a mucous membrane, right? Which is called hymen, right? The clitoris, it is a teeny finger-like structure which lies at the upper junction of the two labia minora. They are the junction of two labia minora above the urethral opening. Above the urethral opening. We know urethral opening, I already tell you, it is present at the anterior portion, right? And vaginal orifice, it is present at the posterior portion. Here in vagina, we have three openings, right? First is our urethral opening, it is present anteriorly. Second is vaginal orifice, which is posteriorly located. Third is here Bartholin gland opening. Bartholin gland, because they are paired, so their openings is also paired, means on the lateral side. Okay, that is even here urethral opening just above that. And the hymen is the often torn during the first coitus intercourses. However, what is given here, right? It can also be broken by a sudden fall or jolt, insertion of vaginal tampon, active participation in some sports like horse riding, cycling, etc. In some women, the hymen persists even after the coitus, not mostly, but in some cases, rarely. In fact, the presence or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity and sexual experience. That's it, given for your common sense, right? Now look the reproductive structure. What is given here? In this structure, you can understand what we read. Here, we read what is the length of this oviduct. It is 10 to what is given 12 centimeter, right? This is called infundibulum. This is it, right? And these finger-like projections, they are called as fimbriae. This is ovary, and here egg released from ovary and come into the fallopian tube. Okay, these are supported by ligament. This is which ligament? Broad peritoneal ligament, right? Okay, and blood capillaries, they come from, that is, it also provide a platform for blood vessels and for lymphatic tissues. Okay, now here this part is called ampulla. Just beneath the infundibulum, it is ampulla, and when it becomes narrower part, this side, this is isthmus, right? Ampulla means here fertilization occurs, and this infundibulum, ampulla, isthmus, these are combinedly called as fallopian tube. And I already tell you, fallopian tube, uterus, they are the reproductive ducts, and their origin each Mullerian duct, right? Ovary. Now here, this part, look here, this is the uterus. It looks like a inverted pear shape, or we can say this structure is inverted piriform uterus. It is the most developed uterus which is made due to the fusion of oviducts. Right here, this side lateral right and left oviduct, they fuse and form the uterus. Right. This is the broader part. Broader part is this one, and this part, right? This part. This part is called crop or fundus. This is given here, uterine fundus. Right? Fundus part. This whole part is called fundus. Okay. This part and the lower part from this side. You can see here it is this one is because it is broader part here. So this is fundus part, and when it becomes narrower part, this is called cervix. This cervix, and a canal which is present in the cervix. This canal is called it is called cervical canal. Right? This is cervical canal, and this cervical canal and this vagina, they both form birth canal. They both form birth canal. Right? This side, it is called uterine cavity. Okay. Now here, uterine cavity means what? Cavity which is present inside the uterus. Now here, this is the histology of this one, this uterus. Which one? Here it is given endometrium, myometrium, perimetrium. Peri means this is the outer one is called perimetrium. This is the myometrium. It is the muscular structure. Myometrium, muscular. Which muscles are there? Here, smooth muscles are there. Right? Endometrium, this is the glandular endometrium. It is glandular. It secretes viscous film of fluid, and this viscous film of fluid, it nourishes the releasing egg or zygote. Right? And this endometrium, due to hyperplasia, it forms the, we can say stratum functionalis layer. This stratum functionalis, that is the another layer which is then developed. It forms the stratum functionalis, and this stratum functionalis, it every month what happens? It sludged off, right? And out means with some blood vessels also are there. So blood, this is ovum, and this layer, it is sludged out of the body. It is sludged out of the body in the form of menstrual, right? This is the overall of female reproductive system. Now here, this structure is a breast structure, right? Female breast structure. You can see here mammary glands. These are ribs. These are ribs, cut off ribs, right? It is also a section, right? Sectional view. So ribs, these are ribs, and these are muscles. And you know, in between ribs, which type of muscles are there? So these muscles are intercostal muscles, right? We can say internal intercostal muscles or external intercostal muscles, but this is not, this time it is not in this chapter, right? I already tell you about the internal intercostal muscles or external intercostal muscles in which chapter? Respiration, right? In human beings, exchange of gases, transportation, exchange of gases, right? Here what happens? Look here, this is the this mammary gland, it is made up of what is there? Lobes, mammary lobes. How many lobes are there? They may be 15 to 20 mammary lobes, and fat tissue. Fat, we can say adipose tissue or adipose tissue, right? They forms the breast. Okay. What is given here? Mammary lobes. How many mammary lobes are there? 15 to 20 mammary lobes are there, and these 15 to 20 mammary lobes, these lobes, right? They contains sac-like structures, and these sac-like structures are called alveoli. I write here mammary alveoli. These alveoli, the cell of mammary alveoli, they release release milk or they secrete milk, and this milk, it is right stored into the alveoli. Then after, what happens? It is transported to the tubules, mammary tubules. These tubules, many tubules, they are open into the mammary ducts, right? And these ducts, they opens into a sac-like structures in which this milk is stored, and it is called ampulla. We can say mammary ampulla, and these mammary ampulla, they opens into the lactiferous duct. This lactiferous duct. Lactiferous duct, and through lactiferous duct, milk is sucked out. Sucked out. That is the total anatomy of, we can say that is the total route of milk, right? So who forms the milk? Alveoli cells, right? The cells which are present in the alveoli, they secrete milk, right? And milk means these cell mammary gland. This is the which type of cell? They are the modification of sweat glands, right? They are modification of sweat gland. So alveoli, they secretes milk, and this milk comes into the tubules. Tubules means tube-like structures, and these many tubules, they opens into a single duct, that is in mammary duct, and this mammary duct, they opens into a single sac-like structure which is called ampulla, right? And from ampulla, these ampulla opens into the lactiferous duct, and through lactiferous duct, this milk is sucked out. Okay, and this structure is also given here, mammary lobe, and mammary, these are the sac-like structure, these are the mammary lobes, and these sac-like structure are also called as alveoli, right? Alveoli is not given here, but this is also called as alveoli, right? Look here, it is given mammary alveolus. These structure, they are mammary alveolus. These mammary alveolus, their cells, they secrete milk, and these milks come into a duct. First, they come into the tubules. Tubule is not given here, but they comes to tubules, and many tubules, they open a single. Look here, it's single duct. Many tubules. These are tubules. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. They opens into a single duct, that is mammary duct, right? Now mammary duct, many 1, 2, 3, 4. These mammary duct open into a single sac-like structure. Look here, these are the sac-like structure or dilated part or broader part. This one is called ampulla, mammary ampulla, right? Where milk is stored. And these mammary ampulla, they opens into lactiferous duct, and this lactiferous duct, they opens outside the body, and that means through lactiferous duct, milk is sucked out by the small baby, right? This part is called nipple, or sometimes we said them teats, right? And this is called areola. Okay, so in this figure you can understand what is the root of milk. Milk is formed in lobes, right? Lobes, each lobe contains many alveoli. Each alveoli cell, they secrete milk, and this milk is stored into the alveoli, sac-like structure. Then it is transferred to the tubules, mammary tubules. Now mammary tubules, many mammary tubules, they opens into a single mammary duct. Mammary duct opens into the ampulla. Ampulla opens into the lactiferous duct, and from lactiferous duct, milk is sucked out. A functional mammary gland is characteristics of all female, right, mammals. The mammary glands are a paired structure. These are called breast, right, that contains glandular tissue and variable amount of fat. The glandular tissue of each breast is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes, which contains cluster of cells, and these cluster of cells is called alveoli. These cells, these cluster of cells, they are responsible for the secretion of milk, right? And one thing is also there, these cells, right, these cells, they are which type of glands? Mammary cells which secrete the, right, they are modification of sweat gland. They are modification of sweat gland. But here one difference is there. These are, they are also called as apocrine glands, right? Why they are called as apocrine gland? Because half part, this is a single gland, right? Single gland. Now it produces its secretion at the upper portion. Now what happens? This upper portion is sludged off. This portion is off in the form of milk, right? That's why it is called as apocrine gland. Okay. Here, cluster of cells called alveoli. These cells of alveoli secrete milks, which is stored in the cavity in the lumens of alveoli, which is stored in the sac-like structure in the cavity or in the lumen of the alveoli, and these alveoli open into the mammary tubules, which is not present in our figure, right? But you understand, tubules, and the tubules of each lobe join to form a mammary duct. Many tubules forms a mammary duct. Several mammary duct joins to form a wider mammary ampulla, right? And then which is connected to the lactiferous duct through which milk is sucked out. Do you understand this one, right? Now gametogenesis. Now we start gametogenesis. Yes. Gametogenesis. Look here, once more I tell you, these mammary glands, they are not a reproductive part of mammal females, but they are secondary sexual character, right? Now gametogenesis. What is gametogenesis? Gametogenesis means formation of gametes, right? So formation of gametes, because in human two types of gametes are there, so two types of gametogenesis is also present. One is when sperms are formed, means male gamete is formed, this one is called spermatogenesis. And if female gamete, that is ovum, is formed, it is called oogenesis, right? The primary sex organs, that is, which one is primary sex organs? They are our testes in case of male gamete and ovaries in case of female gamete. The primary sex organs, that is testes in the male and ovaries in the female, they produce gametes, as for example, sperm from testis, ovum from ovaries respectively, right? By the process that is called gametogenesis. That means what is gametogenesis? Production or formation of gamete is called gametogenesis. In testis, in male, the immature male germ cells and immature male germ cells are called spermatogonia, right? Spermato means what? Mato means mata, or we can say mother, right? Spermatogonia produce sperms by spermatogenesis, right? Spermatogenesis that begins at puberty. Spermatogenesis begins at puberty, but when we consider the oogenesis, it begins in intrauterine life, right? Singular, the spermatogonia, which is a plural form. What is the singular form of the spermatogonia? It is spermatogonium. This one is spermatogonium, present on the inside wall of seminiferous tubules. Already I tell you in the previous lecture, right? In seminiferous tubules, we have two types of cells. One is called cuboidal germinal cell, and another one is called Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells are also called as nurse cell or sustentacular cell because they provide nutrition for developing spermatozoa, right? And a germinal cell, they are responsible for the formation of spermatogonia, right? That is given here. Present on the inside wall of seminiferous tubules, multiply by mitotic division. First division is always mitotic division. When mitotic division means two cells are formed. One is called spermatogonia A, we can say. Another one is called spermatogonia B. Spermatogonia remains there, right? But spermatogonia B, that is a single, another cell, right? It start meiosis for the formation of 4 haploid spermatids, right? Meiotic division and increase in number. So they divide, that means what? Spermatogonia, they continuously divide and increase in their number. Each spermatogonium is diploid. It is 2n, and one thing I tell you here, if mato word is come, look here, M-A-T-O, mato word is come, either it is in spermatogonium and another means a spore, that is sperm mother cell, spore mother cell, another there, right? That means what? Mato means it is always 2n, right? Because it means what? It means mother, and mother means what? It is 2n, right? Now here it is diploid and contains 46 chromosomes, because we are reading human. In human, 46 chromosome is what? 23 pairs. That's why it is called 2n, right? Some of the spermatogonia called primary spermatocyte. It is called primary spermatocyte, right? When this spermatogonia, what is the difference between spermatogonia and primary spermatocyte? Spermatogonia, when they increase in their size, right? When they increase in their size, right? And then they are called as primary spermatocyte, because when they increase their size, they have to divide, right? Because their karyokinase, that is karyocytoplasmic, or we can say karyoplasmic index is increased. That's why they have to divide, right? The develop or the growth, when the growth occurs, right? When this size is bigger, then they have to divide, and they are called as spermatocytes, primary spermatocytes. Periodically undergo meiosis. So they goes into the meiosis, right? If primary spermatocyte completes the first meiotic division, this first meiotic division we already know it is a reductional division. Means what happens here? Here the number of chromosome is reduced by half. Now what happens? This 2n, it becomes this primary spermatocyte. When it converts into secondary spermatocyte, right? Spermatocyte, now it has number of chromosomes are half, but number of chromatids are 2, right? They have haploid number of chromosomes, right? Leading to the formation of 2 equal haploid cells, and these cells are called secondary spermatocyte. Mato means mother, because they have to go in meiosis second, which have only 23 chromosomes each, but number of chromatid threads are 46, because sister chromatid is also present. When you read, if you read in our earlier classes about the meiosis, you understand number of chromosome is reduced in meiosis first, right? Means in meiosis first what happens? Meiosis first, distribution of chromosome occurs, but in meiosis second it is look like to mitotic, right? Here what happens? Here chromatin, that is chromatids, sister chromatids, they get separate, right? The secondary spermatocyte undergo the second meiotic division to produce 4 equal haploid spermatids. These are called spermatids. Spermatids means they are cylindrical in structure. They are cylindrical in structure, right? They are not mature in the sperm. They have no tail, no other things. They are called spermatids, right? What would be the number of chromosome in the spermatid? Simply because they are formed after second meiotic division, their number is n haploid, means 23. That's here what happens. From a single mother cell, 4 daughter cells are formed, and these 4 daughter cells, they have haploid number of chromosomes. Means each daughter cell, they have 23 number of chromosomes. But here we have 2 types of sperms are there. One contains 22 plus X. I can write here 22 plus X, right? And another sperm, it contains 22 plus Y. 2 sperms are there and 2 sperms. Total 4 sperms are formed, right? The spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa. That is sperms. What is the difference between spermatids and spermatozoa? In spermatids, I tell you, spermatids are cylindrical structure like this one, right? But when they develop their tail or other organs, then they become spermatozoa. Zoa means what? Which can move, right? Zoospore means what? In which flagella is present. So when we use zoa for zoa, now it becomes, look here, a tail is developed, now it becomes spermatozoa, right? Tail is absent, now it is called spermatids. This is spermatid, but this becomes spermatozoa. This is, the spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa, sperm, by the process, and this process is called spermiogenesis, right? So that means what? Transformation of spermatid into spermatozoa is called spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis, right? Spermatogenesis means formation of sperms, and spermiogenesis means transformation of spermatids, right? Not sperms. Spermatids into spermatozoa. So what happens here? A tail is developed in spermatids. When tail is developed, now it can move. This one is called spermiogenesis. After spermiogenesis means what? After the transformation of spermatids into spermatozoa, because it develops tail, it can move. What happens? Sperm head become embedded in the Sertoli cells. Sperm head, it embedded in the Sertoli cell. Why it embedded in the Sertoli cell? To get nutrition, right? And are finally released from the seminiferous tubules, right? Finally, what happens? It released from the seminiferous tubules. It released from the Sertoli cell and then come into the that is seminiferous tubules, and then move from the seminiferous tubules toward the where tubuli acti. From tubuli acti, it goes into the rete testis. From rete testis, it goes into the vasa efferentia. From vasa efferentia, it goes into the epididymis, where it stores for further maturation. Okay, and this, that is release of spermatozoa from this one, Sertoli cell. We can say release of spermatozoa from Sertoli cell or from seminiferous tubule is called spermiation. That is called spermiation, right? Here you read three terms. What terms? Spermatogenesis, that means process of formation of sperms. So then spermiogenesis means transformation of spermatid into spermatozoa. Then spermiation means what? Release of spermatozoa from seminiferous tubule is called spermiation, right? Spermatogenesis starts at the age of puberty, right? Due to the significant increase in the secretion of gonadotropins, which gonadotropins are released here. Here we know GnRH. What is the full form of GnRH? It is called gonadotropin releasing hormone, which is released from pituitary gland, right? Which is released from GnRH. It is not from pituitary gland. It is released from hypothalamus. Hypothalamus. Now, it stimulates the pituitary gland to release two another hormones, which are gonadotropins. They are FSH and LH. FSH means what? Follicle stimulating hormone. LH also called as ICSH. ICSH full form is interstitial cell stimulating hormone. And CH, that is another. LH means what? Luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone and ICSH, they are same, right? This, if you recall, is a hypothalamic hormone. Already I tell you. The increased level of GnRH, because it is a releasing hormone, what happens? It acts on the anterior pituitary gland. Anterior pituitary gland. Anterior means what? In, we can say also pars distalis, part of the pituitary gland, and stimulates the secretion of two gonadotropins. These two gonadotropins are luteinizing hormone LH, also it is called as ICSH, interstitial cell stimulating hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone, that is FSH. Okay. Now what is the function of this LH or FSH? LH or luteinizing hormone, it acts at the Leydig cells. Leydig cells, sometimes it is also called as interstitial cell, right? And stimulates the synthesis and the secretion of androgens. And these Leydig cells, they are responsible for the secretion of androgens, or as for example testosterone. Androgens in turn stimulates the process of spermatogenesis, right? Now follicle stimulating hormone, it acts on the Sertoli cell, because Sertoli cell, it forms a barrier between blood and testis, right? All the hormones, as for example FSH, it comes to the Sertoli cell, it attaches with the FSH acceptor proteins, we can say androgen binding proteins, ABP, right? FSH act on Sertoli cell and stimulate